was I in the main? I don't know. I kind of plan on this being a pregame for uh, Black Goo Part 2. Black Goo Part Due. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to skimp this video because it's something that so the way that I view a lot of things is that there's possibility for them to be real, but I don't have personal experience with it. So if that's the case, my disposition on it is like interesting. That's it, essentially, and if I can see context between that and something else, or if there's enough documented evidence of a thing, then I kind of accept it to be a heavy possibility. I still don't necessarily believe it, but I accept it to be a heavy possibility. Like historical stuff. We know that history is heavily fabricated and manipulated, but if there are enough sources that say the same thing or something that's very, very close to each other, then to me, that is a good indication. And the reason I keep saying this the way that I'm saying it is because, honestly, none of this shit's fucking real to me, It's even the stuff that I do see or experience or that's happening to me, even that stuff, I try to keep that in the front of my brain. Like, this isn't real. As much as it sucks, as much as it, affects me on a real level, as much as I can't, disassociate easily, or I have to do physical things to distance myself from certain things. Some things I can't distance myself from at all. None of it's real. That I feel that in my being. There are things that are like that for me, where I feel them in my being, and I'm not going to try to assert that to anyone else. It doesn't need to be asserted to anyone else. That's just what it is for me. And I'm sure many others have, similar stuff where it's like, no matter what anyone else says, I've been through this, or, whatever. Man, I'm finding just all kinds of weird shit about Black Goo, man. This is something that has spanned centuries, and it's a very complex thing. I tried to get some different perspectives on it earlier today, and most of what I found was just fucking nonsense. They weren't really diving that deep into it. They were just kind of referencing movies. And though I'm also going to reference movies, I'm going to reference real stuff that is being unveiled and utilized today. I've already gone into the fact that I've done experimentation with some of this stuff. But I also have come to believe now that there are multiple entities, multiple phenomena being called Black Goo, kind of like an all-encompassing thing. And that kind of bothers me because, these are very, very different things. And, that can do us a disservice, because it's there are parts of this that I while I do have a feeling that there's something to it because of its repetitious nature in being brought up in all of these different venues and avenues. I haven't seen it, so the Black Goo that's represented in pop culture, Under the Skin, Phantoms, many, like, there's a Twilight Zone episode. There's episodes of all kinds of shit. There's, I think they're called Replicants in Stargate SG-1. There's so many representations of this entity throughout pop culture. I don't have any direct contact with that. The only way and the only reason that I have kind of in the past been led to believe that these two things that I'm starting to see as potentially very different were possibly the same is Harold Kotz and his research, and listening to his lectures. And my thing is, while I'm not trying to downgrade or discount his research, I haven't been able to find much to support some of the things that he says. And again, I'm not discounting because I have personal experience with some of what he's talking about. There are pictures in the community section. I'm still trying to figure out where would be a good spot to put those, because there's not really like a pictures section for YouTube. And I don't know that I want to just black goo up my fucking Instagram. You know what I mean? Like, if there were like a section where you could, put folders of pictures on Instagram, maybe I would do that. But there's not really. So I'm still working that out. I tried to do it on the Patreon. That got reported as mature content, like nude stuff or something. So I'm not going to do that again. Lesson learned. Don't want to be, exposed that way. No pun intended, I guess. Because that was quick. Within a day of me putting it up, it was already reported as mature content. So, whatever that was. But it does seem like there are two different things going on, at least. And Harold Kotz, within that, says there are two different types of black goo. And again, this is just my feeling on it. I haven't done the research on anything but what I came into contact with and am still in contact with. But what he describes is an organic black goo, and the process to which he says it is synthesized makes sense. He says that it is synthesized essentially through a few different means artificially, but the natural process is certain minerals being siphoned through rock in a very high pressure, high temperature process in natural oceans, which makes sense to me. That makes complete sense to me. He has a process that he has replicated that uses the process of filtering up water. Already highly filtered water, and then up filtering it repeatedly. It's a process of, I can't say synthesizing, up filtering. That's just what I'm going to call it. He also references how he has colleagues that have alchemical methods of reproducing the organic version, and they sell it. They sell it for ingestion, and I don't know that I don't agree with that. I'm just gonna say I don't agree with that, because you don't know what that is. The running explanation is that it gives you monoatomic gold and silver and things of that nature, which are good for the body. They're good for the mitochondria, but you can just get those. You can just get monoatomic gold. You can get various forms of gold and silver that are ingestible, that are good for your body and good for the mitochondria. I do that. Many times there are these things that are put out there as, supplements or very specific tinctures and all kinds of things that are supposedly good for the body. I choose to just go get the ingredients, like the spike protein. detox. I just get that myself, and and not to say I go like synthesize or ferment, I don't go ferment some shit to make nattokinase or anything like that, but I get the separate, the separate ingredients, and I just take those, let my body mix it up and do what it does. It's definitely a process. I learned that a good way of extracting the curcumin from turmeric is fats, good fats. So if you're going to do that, you definitely want to make sure you're either putting the turmeric into something that has good fats in it, or for instance, maybe you could try, I eat sunflower butter. That seems like it would also achieve this, but just in case, I've started putting my turmeric into, ground meat, ground turkey, which I eat a lot. I don't eat a lot of things anymore. I can't wrap my head around eating most shit. I know I have to, but it's like a chore, to be honest. I really don't enjoy eating anymore. And I haven't for a pretty significant amount of time. I didn't understand what that was at first, but now I think I get it, at least a lot more than I used to. Anyway, so yeah, they sell it. They sell ingested, they sell black goo that is supposed to be looked at as like a supplement, and my thing is, personally, I don't trust necessarily anyone who is making money off of something to be on the up and up. And that's no slight against him or his colleagues. I feel that way about most beings. You kind of are putting your faith into whoever you're buying supplements from, medications from, all of it. And my experience with this realm is that most stuff is shitty. Most things, you think you're doing something good for yourself, and then you find out all this bullshit. Doesn't matter if you're an adult or a child or a baby. If you have kids, and if you've had kids recently, you know what I'm talking about. All the things that have come out recently about the factories that produce the things that we use for our children is, it's despicable, to say the least. It's despicable. That's one of the... I have reasons for the way that I feel about this place and about the beings that inhabit it. And it's not that I have disdain for all humans or anything like that, but like, what the fuck, dude? It's not just that these things are like this, it's that no one gives a fuck. That's the part that really, makes me upset. It's not the thing. It's the fact that no one gives a fuck about the thing. They just let these things happen. These articles come out exposing all this bullshit on a specific topic. No one cares. It's very much like this Black Goose stuff. Like, you can try to talk to someone about this, and they're going to make fun of you. They're going to make fun of you. Doesn't matter what you can show them. It doesn't matter. Even fuck pictures. I can, at the time, I could pull up my specimens, show you under a microscope. I could even make them do shit with frequency, and they would still be like, yeah, I don't know I don't see what you're saying. The cognitive dissonance and fucking pussed out fear, it supersedes everything, it's definitely very isolating and makes me feel very strange about those that are surrounding me, essentially. And my thing is, the way that we're getting poisoned on so many different levels, I really don't put it past those same entities and groups or whatever you want to call them to be putting that shit in the food. In fact, there's a story that I found while kind of refreshing my research today. A whole bunch of vials of that forced bioweapon had black particulates in it in Japan. And this is just one story. This doesn't mean it just happened in Japan, because the company that made it is from here. Starts with an M. That one. Not the J&J. the M one, you know. And it immediately made me think of like Prometheus. David took that tiny little drop and put it in that dude's shit, and he was fucked, you know. These representations that are in entertainment, they're not far off. They're not far off by any means. And there are so many more of them than I even thought there was. I thought I watched a lot of movies and TV and shit. There are things that I'm not really into, like I don't watch a lot of Star Trek or anything like that, or what's the other one? Babylon 5, or I haven't really been able to get myself into Stargate, even though that's apparently got a lot of occult and esoteric shit in it. But there's a grip of shit that's just talking about the same thing over and over again. Creep Show. There's an episode of Creep Show with Black Goo. My thing is, I'm not saying what that means, but what I am saying is, why is it repeated so many times? You know? Why is it repeated so many times? And my thing is, if I hadn't come into contact with a version of this phenomena, I'd be like, all right, this is fake, because they're pushing it too hard. And usually that's my rule of thumb. But as I mentioned, I have dealt with some of this. Didn't know what it was at first. Put it under a brand new microscope that I bought for the reason of investigation into it, and was disgusted and nauseated and horrified at what I found. And then the experimentation that continued after that, it blew those feelings up tenfold. It's, sometimes I see little wisps of scientists being like, look, I used to work at this place, and this and this and this happened, and I need everyone to know what is happening. And no one gives a shit. I feel a little bit like that. I didn't work on this, this whatever the fuck it is, but the fact that I've confirmed it with my eyes and experimentation and hands myself, and have been subject to it, it's infuriating how little, attention those of us that are talking about it get. And then those that suffer the kind of crazier symptoms, the more Gellens type shit, they just get ostracized and thrown into hospitals or medicated for psychological shit. Like, there is a very obvious thing happening, and it's almost like there's other stuff being pushed to the forefront to keep everyone from paying attention to it. And I am not even gonna come close to claiming that I understand what it is. Because as I said, at first I was like, okay, so this is one thing. And then after a little more, research and digging around, okay, so it's two things. At least one of them seems to be agreeable, supposedly. Now it's to the point where there's like 3 or 4 different iterations of this thing that people are calling black goo. Some of it's not even goo. It's just like nanoparticulates that could give the semblance of a goo if it wanted to. But it's to the point where these things are starting to come to a head. They're starting to almost not combine, but like they're starting to kind of tease that there's going to be another wave of sickness. And how do you think they're going to accomplish that? Why do you think they're spraying so much? Everyone thinks it's because of the sun. You really think they give a fuck about the sun? Not to say that that's not another possible reason. Maybe it has something to do with this. The sun, the sun does have really, really intense healing properties for microbiology. So, whatever. It's being introduced, I believe, into so many things that even if everyone snapped the fuck out of it and was paying attention to those of us that are talking about it, what would we do? What would we do? It's really, really weird. I won't say daunting, because I honestly, I can't say enough. Fear, I don't care. Fear is just gone, you know. Discomfort is still a very real thing. I think people think when I say there's no fear that means I'm okay with anything happening at any time ever. Nope. I still don't like discomfort just like any other being. But fear, I'm done with that. You know? I'm done with that. There are certain things that, you know, that provoke fear in many that I won't say I would welcome it, but like I'm just not afraid of that, dude, you know? And even if it's something that I you know, would gravely hope to not go through, or I would rather not go through, if I did, you know, what am I gonna do about it? There are some of these things where, you know, there's a lot of beings within these communities that are trying to tell you you can think your way out of that you can think your way out of any situation. And though you know, that's healthy if you can keep it in perspective, it's good for disposition. But if you take that literally, I mean, what? If you take that literally, I don't know what to say to you specifically. Try it. It sounds so negatively pessimistic. Doesn't just sound pessimistic, it sounds negatively pessimistic. And, you know, I'm sorry if it does, but like that is part of the problem. Everyone's trying to think their way out of all of this shit instead of like talking to others and then doing some shit. You know? It's very intentional. It's obviously intentional. Someone asked me yesterday, like, do you think a lot of these YouTubers are like kind of plants to fuck us all up? Yeah, man. Yes. Yes. Spirituality is very important, but you don't you don't just like ignore everything else and try to think your way out of being like attacked and enslaved and subjected to horrible things. Like it doesn't work that way. And many are so kind of like, I don't know, entranced by this place and how it works that the things that they do just kind of like gross me out. They're disgusting to me. The way that some regard their children and you know, kind of plan out the way that they raise their children. I won't say anyone specifically, but maybe you know what I'm talking about, maybe you don't. It's fucked up. And the fact that some others, you know, the other parent doesn't get to have a say or to put their foot down, especially in the situations where they gave up something of their life to try to make sure that that child or those children get the best that they can. This system is all around 100% fucked. And I can definitely understand trying to position that in one's head in a positive, you know, a positive angle, but I still am a firm believer in realism and pessimism. You can't idealist your way out of you know, this. It doesn't work. And I think I have a theory that most idealists and optimists, like straight on optimists, because there are some that call themselves optimists but they're not, I would say, if anything, they're a realist with a optimistic, you know, scope, or you know, those that do that many times seem to not have the same types of, you know, issues in life or hardships. It's just a theory. It's just a theory. I feel like if you view this place like that, you're delusional, which is that's another theory. You know, there are some where it's just been so fucked up that they had to like almost disassociate from this place and just be like, nope, everything is beautiful. Everything is beautiful at all times. Like, those are my two theories on that. If you view this place in that regard, you're either delusional or you actually have it pretty good. And so for you, it is good, you know, like, I don't know. I try not to necessarily go into stuff like that because that seems like a very sensitive subject for many beings, and I don't like feeling like I'm shitting on someone's crutch, you know, because in the end I think we're all using crutches, understandably, to walk through this experience, and some of us are trying to learn stuff while we're using those, and then others are, in a sense, you know, just kind of blinding their eyes and moving through it flailing. And that's kind of disturbing to me. But, you know, all you can do is do the best that you can to try to, like, potentially educate or help those people. But at the same time, are you going to sacrifice your own well-being and the things that are good for you in order to potentially be flailed on over and over again? Or are you at some point going to say, you know what, I can't do this in this way? But that specific phenomena is not going away, and those that are doing experimentation with it are becoming more emboldened by everyone's cognitive dissonance. The more that they say shit out loud that they're doing, and everyone's just like, okay, they talk about it more, they do more, they come up with more projects, they come up with more, patents. And it's it's hard to not, like, just kind of go off on this every other video, you know? That's why you won't see me talking about that specific topic that much so far on the channel, because, like, I can go on for a long time, just philosophically, scientifically, all that stuff, because you can start to potentially see aspects of this in things that you wouldn't even necessarily see. I mean, germ theory is not proven, so then what causes illness? Like, there's all kinds of stuff that this can be attached to, because in realistic detail, you can see parasites definitely cause illness, and mucus definitely causes illness. And so, I started to do research into that specifically, especially since I have a video called something bioweapon, unsanctioned bioweapon, something like that. It's got the white paper talking about it as the thumbnail, if you're familiar with white papers. And oddly enough, all this stuff that started happening in 2020, it not only very mysteriously acts and behaves much like a very specific parasite, the way that you combat it is the same. Same thing, same. And if you really want to try to rid yourself of it, it's the same answer on both sides. Sugar and yeast. Sugar and yeast. It eats sugar and yeast. You ever wonder why you get those sugar attacks where it's like, fuck, man, I'm really trying to cut back on the sugar, but I need to, and then you just fucking eat the sugar. Some have the capability of avoiding that, or not being subject to that in that way, or they have systems in their body that are so strong that it keeps that type of phenomena from bothering them, but most don't. In fact, my theory is that there are a great many that are very affected by this that just don't, they just assimilate. I live with one. It's very creepy. The difference between our experience in the same household is wild. It's wild. You know, but, you know, that's not the only case. It's kind of that way with everything. And, you know, what can you do? But I'm going to talk about that later. Bye.